What's up, you guys? This is Zay Brooks, and this is episode 35 to a show I do not know the title to yet. Today, what I wanted to talk about is risk assessment and trying to figure out how to go about risking things in your life, spiritually, financially. This is just my anecdotal experience on how I find certain ways to assess risk. I think the first one that people always want to talk about is financial risk, right? Trying to figure out, okay, how much risk do I create in the amount of money that I'm making? How much risk do I create in my career choice? And I think the biggest aspect of figuring that out is your fear tolerance. How much fear are you willing to endure to not even suppress but work through to get what it is that you want? Because I think a huge fallacy is a lot of people think that most millionaires or most billionaires or most businessmen all got it fed through their family and daddy money, and it was super easy and no fear was included in their journey and there was no risk. I think that's a coping mechanism that a lot of people try to say, it's trust fund money or, nepotism that got them their money. I'm not talking about those individuals, right? I'm talking about the people who got it from the mud or even from the middle class and became somebody, created a business, was a person of interest, actor, business owner, content creator, whatever you name it. Financial risk, a lot of risk really, but I'm just talking about financial right now, comes from your ability to handle fear. I look at my life, right? I was taking that leap of faith to become a content creator in the summer of 2023 was when I truly let go in a full-time job with no plans to become a content creator. I'm about 3 years in, right? And, I had $30,000 saved up. I will mention that. And that helped create a cushion so that I could have money to pay the bills, to find opportunities that would ultimately fund my life when the money would run out, right? So during that time, that was not easy at all. You had bills to pay. You had no idea where your money was coming from. You're a full-time entrepreneur. My willingness to deal with the fear that came with not knowing what's going to happen allowed me to create, time and patience for the opportunities to come into line, where now, I guess it was 3 years down the road, I actually have a for sure amount of money that I know I'm making per month from certain businesses or certain brand deals, things of that nature. Financial risk, a lot of people don't know how to handle their fear, right? Or mitigate fear or deal with their fear. And I think that controls a lot of their decisions where risk isn't even a thing. Like, that's not even in their vocabulary because of their lack of discernment with their emotions, especially pertaining to fear, right? And I've also talked about fear in other episodes before. Fear can truly sabotage your entire existence, your perception of reality. Fear is like one of the most bottom, core principles and emotions that you feel that stem from, the rest of your life and other emotions that may come about as you experience your day, your career, the decisions that you make. So that's my first piece of information that I want to give to you is in financial risk, the ability to deal with your fear, especially in investments or taking that leap of faith and trusting in the research that you do, right? A lot of the times people will invest in something because their homie told them to do it, or TikTok told them to do it, or a financial advisor told them to do it. In my opinion, that's a secondary source as to where you want to place your money. So you're telling me I worked for my money, but you're going to tell me, not having anything to do with my money, you're going to know where to put that based on an opinion? I could see if you pay some sort of financial advisor, that's completely different, right? But not a lot of people, not a lot of middle-class people, consumers, even business owners, the high-up ones can, but not a lot of people can hire a financial advisor who makes money on the trades that they handle your money with. You see, so obviously there's exceptions to the rule. I'm not talking about that, but there are always people in here that try to talk like that and they think they outsmart me. Anyways, I move on. The ability to research your own financial decisions creates a lot of conviction. It creates a lot of confidence so that you don't have fear when making certain decisions when you assess risk. I think risk also should look in different forms, right? You should also have low risk investments, high risk investments, and middle tier risk investments. And I'll tell you mine. My high risk investments is crypto. I'll be honest with you. And some crypto, they're trying to make it FDIC insured, and you have XRP, that's being backed by the government and things of that nature, right? You have stable coins, things of that nature. So those are the high risk investments that I look into simply because there's no FDIC insurance on it. These aren't stocks where we know that they've been around for 50 to 100 years. Talking about Ford, we're talking about energy companies, even your Googles, even your Teslas, they've been around, for some time, and they're not going anywhere, right? NVIDIA, things of that nature. So now moving into my low risk investments, those are all things that I do in a Roth IRA, which is more so like VXUS, VTI, VU. These are all low-level investments that I place in a Roth, where these are things that I just want to grow with compound interest. And although there is a risk, I guess, investing in the entire American economy, as it were, if you understand and do your research, you realize that year over year, the market outperforms itself in the long run. There's a really good book, especially for this financial segment of what I'm talking about, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And the book basically explains sitting in the market for as long as you can is the greatest thing that you can do. A lot of rich individuals, we're talking about the millions and billionaires, they never sell their assets. What they choose to do is, what is that? They take their assets and they put it in a trust, and then it gains so much capital that they can leverage loans against that money. And in that trust, you can pass down the assets when you pass to your family members, and that's what they call it, generational wealth, is they never sell their assets. And if they want to take money, they use a loan against it. That's something that's like far down the road. You can do your own research if you want. But anyways, the point of the game is when you choose to invest, you should invest money that you're okay never seeing again. The financial risk is something that you'll see exponential gain when you choose to have, as they say, diamond hands. You choose to live without fear and let your money grow over time. So a Roth IRA is a great place to do that because there are no taxes that you have to pay until you're 59 and a half. So you're telling me if I have $20,000, right, that I invested at 18, let's say at 59 and a half, it's at $2 million. I don't know how the math works, right? I could, if I had notes here for you, but I'm going off the dome. You could have $2 million. That is completely untaxed money that you take. It's like your own personal retirement fund. That's something that if you pull out before you're supposed to, you'd have to pay a tax on that. You might even have to pay capital gains. But that's something where, by just choosing to mitigate your risk, you get maximum value with a low investment risk, such as a Roth IRA. Now, your medium tier. I think, in my humble opinion, businesses that you can grow, channels of content creation that you have on TikTok and YouTube, I think that's medium risk because it's not a lot of money. I have an iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone. And then I have a DJI mic, right? This costs $200. And then I have a tripod, another $50. What is that? Excluding your phone, it's like a $300, $400 investment. But the only thing is that you're investing your time into something, and your consistency and your editing and your thought process and your creative ideas. Those are all things that you do invest. So in my opinion, those are medium tier investments where it's not necessarily a lot of money. It's more so your time. But I think that those are ideas that, a lot of people, again, they have fear of perception of what other people think about them. So it stops their risk assessment entirely, even with something like, in my opinion, of a middle tier investment, like creating a business, creating a TikTok channel, creating a YouTube channel. Like I'm saying, fear will sabotage your life entirely no matter what risk you choose to take. Oh man, low investment. Oh man, I have to keep my money. I'm 18. I have to keep my money in there for 40 years. Oh man, what's going to happen in 40 years? No, I shouldn't do it. Mid-tier investment. Oh, well, I wonder what people are going to think about my TikTok, and I wonder what people are going to think about my Instagram and my product and my art that I made and my music. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Low, high investment risk, the crypto or whatever stock you feel like, whatever. Oh man, this is something that, what if I lose my money and crypto doesn't become a thing anymore? And, what if this, virus or this world war causes the money to drop and I lose all my, I'm not going to do it. See how quickly fear can stop your risk assessment in general, right? Some people don't even give themselves the opportunity with how much fear they have in their life to assess risk. So that's probably the biggest thing I can tell you in the first part of this episode is learning how to manage fear will help and create the opportunity for you to manage risk. And that's with career, choosing the right job, choosing the right lifestyle, choosing the right investment opportunities, choosing the right mentor, right? Everything in life, in my opinion, that's worth grabbing is a risk, right? I go to the gym and I go lift weights. There's a risk that I could slip this weight and it could fall on my neck and I could die. right? There is that risk, right? There's a risk when I want to go get, some fruit from the store at Safeway. I got to get in my car and drive. There's a chance where I can get in the car and X, Y, Z, ABC happens, right? I don't even want to say it. I don't even know why I said the weightlifting part. But those things can actually happen. If you want something in life, no matter how small it is, it does take a certain amount of risk. If I want to go ask this girl out on a date, if I want to ask my homie, to go get some food, you have to deal with the transparency of the risk that he may, reject you, or the woman may reject you, or the job or the opportunity or the mentor may reject you. Like, that always happens in life. No matter, how you want to look at it in any angle, you have to assess some sort of risk, what's worth doing. So now the next part that I want to get into is spiritual risk. I've talked about in episodes before of dealing with certain people and how you want to deal with your energy and how you want to deal with the creative prowess that you have to give to certain endeavors in life. How you spend your life. Are you at a job that you don't enjoy? Is that taking away from who it is that you truly want to be? Do you feel like you're the highest version of yourself? How can you manage or even think about spiritual risk, right? So I come back to my life. I think it's very important to have time to self-reflect. That's one of the biggest things that I talk about, is giving time to yourself to figure out in certain aspects of your life, certain people, being able to reflect and realize if that person's meant for you, if this opportunity, if this group, if this whatever. I can't even begin to think about all the different things. Is that meant for you spiritually? Does that help you become the highest version of yourself? Does this toxic relationship, or does this, roommate or family member, spending too much time with them, or going to this pottery class, whatever, does that help you on your spiritual journey? And the risk aspect that comes into play, like I had just mentioned, everything in your life is a risk. If I choose to go hang out with this group of people, if I choose to go on this date with this girl, these are things that I have to assess and move forward and reflect on once those things happen. A lot of people's energy gets drained from them because of the people that they spend time with or the things that they do. I can give some perfect examples. I'm talking about doom scrolling. I'm talking about spending time doing this, all day, spending time at the bar all day, spending time going out all night, spending hundreds of dollars a weekend when you can take that same six-pack, go to the crib, and have a game night, tenth of the price. I'm just trying to get you to understand. There is certain things that you can choose to do that will help your spirit, that will help you become the highest version of yourself, to live without limitations, right? To become the highest version. And, spiritual risk is something that people don't think about because they're worried about the Celtics, and they're worried about the Dodgers, and they're worried about, this new perfume or this new food at Arby's, right? Giving that time to sit down and reflect and really figure out what it is that you want, who it is that you want to be, the things that you're participating in, are those meant for you? That's assessing your spiritual risk. And, again, some people have so much fear about meeting that new person or going to try something new that they don't even give themselves the opportunity to assess risk, to reflect on what the experience brought them. The next thing I would say is one of my favorite sayings is, doing things to the highest level of excitement with zero insistence on the outcome. Doing something that you feel like, right now for me, right this morning I woke up, I said I wanted to go film an episode, and then I want to go to the beach and I want to read. That sounds really exciting to me. Sounds really plentiful, and it sounds like it's just full of abundance, and I get to refocus and be by myself and just spend time by myself. Now, do I have any insistence on what the outcome would be? I guess I can expect what would happen, but truly I do my best to live in the present moment and not allow myself to think, oh, this may happen or this might happen, because two things will happen. One, if I go into a negative experience expecting something, I experience hell twice. I would experience hell before it happens, and then the negative thing, quote unquote, I'm making an analogy here that it's hell. I would be experiencing hell twice, my thoughts before it happened and when it actually happened. And then when you have something positive, it's the other side of the two things. If I think this positive experience is going to happen, when it ends up happening, but it's not the way I had thought of it, I compare it to my perception of what I thought was going to happen. My insistence on the outcome, either positive or negative, I think sabotages our present moment experience and what to reflect from it, because we have some sort of idea of what we think will happen, right? Assessing your spiritual risk isn't thinking what's going to happen on the insistence of the outcome. It's more so preparing yourself and doing the inner work to take on anything that can happen in front of you. That's the difference. The reason why I explained financial risk is, yes, you would have to take some sort of insistence on the outcome, because that's not necessarily you experiencing something. It's your money experiencing something, right? If I had a son or a kid and I sent them somewhere, I'd have to have some sort of insistence on the outcome for them, because I am looking out for them. I am looking out for my money. That's a sort of financial risk, or a risk that I would take with, my loved ones, right? Spiritual risk is something completely different, because that's you in the experience itself. So I don't think you should have any insistence on the outcome. I think you should prepare on the inner work. It'd be like if you owned a company, you would prepare the company. You wouldn't go look and see what would happen with the company. Oh, this. That, I think if you worry about that too much, not worrying about exactly where you are, where your feet are right now, I think it's a lot harder to become that company or this person that you say that you want to be. You need to focus on the now. So, assessing spiritual risk is something that's a lot different than financial risk, but it still has to do with fear. It's weird how it ties all together, which is why I wanted to talk about this in general. Is risk is something that scared money don't make money. Or to go where you want to go, you have to go where nobody else has gone. Things of that nature. They still go hand in hand. They just are a little bit different. I guess I can try to think in certain aspects of my life where spiritual risk was valuable. There are people, in my life that I enjoy being around, don't get me wrong, and they're really good friends, but, there are different times where I need different people in my life, to be honest with you, right? I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm trying to not have a 9-to-5. I'm trying to have enough capital and enough freedom to choose the life I want to live every day. So, just being honest, it doesn't make sense for me to spend all my time around people that don't have the same premonitions of who they want to become, right? Some people, they really enjoy their job, or they really enjoy their career. They enjoy the 9-to-5, and to be able to turn off their brain when the clock hits 5, and come back and the clock hits 9, they turn their brain back onto work. And some people that enjoy that certain type of life, right? They always say the 4 friends you are, you're the 5th. So the people that I want to spend my time around when it comes time to work and be who it is that I want to be, I need to be able to surround myself and be around the people that make me feel like and give the confidence of who I want to become. I think, like I said, a lot of people, they claim they want to be this person, but they hang out with people that are the exact opposite, or who they are, but they want to be somebody different, And again, that takes spiritual risk, understanding and reflecting on the amount of time that you spend with people, and then assessing where you want to spend your time now. And then having to take that step, that leap of faith, understanding, okay, I might have to go talk to this person. I might have to go shake this old man's hand at this event that I know to go to, and ask him if there are anybody that are my age that he knows that can have a community of people that I can text and trade ideas, or even have him as a mentor, and ask him questions of who, I would want to be, or, what would he do if he was my age, and ask him to reflect for the sake of my own career. These are all things that it just takes reflection and assessing of who it is that you want to be. But the way the society is built, they don't want you, it doesn't want you to think about that. It wants you to stay an employee, and not saying an employee is a bad thing, but it just wants you to stay stuck in the matrix, stuck in the system of, oh man, you have to do this and you have to do that, and you don't have time to self-reflect because you're worried about your money, and you're worried about your rent, and you're worried about all these bills and these new shoes and this new shirt and this new this, and you want a gold chain and you want all these things. I think there is time for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to just be some hermit crab and only focus on yourself. No, it's a balance in life. But I think that society sets it up to where you don't even get a chance to assess your spiritual risk, even your financial risk, right? Some people, they feel like they have time to research, to invest. They don't have time to find a mentor in a space for their career, their job, or whatever. I'm just trying to bring thought-provoking concepts and things you can resonate with in your own life, to find the time to reflect, to help deal with your fear, to figure out where you want to assess risk. How we doing? I think that's super important. In my own life, I'm constantly trying to balance between, is this a risk that I should start to think about in the future financially, or is this something that I should think about the risk and then prepare myself for anything that may come about, because the skills and abilities that I have and my brain, living without limitations, can take on any endeavor and provide max value to any service that I need to provide, there's always a balance in my head. And sometimes, as an entrepreneur, your mind is never off the clock. So I will say it's not obsessive in any nature, but it's definitely sometimes a lot where I'm thinking about, oh man, I'm about to go meet this new person today. We have something set up, and, am I going to, ask for advice and think about the insistence on the outcome, or am I going to trust myself and live without fear? Like, these are all things that it takes time to figure out and not plot, but to sit and assess and think, A lot of time, in my opinion, right? Me as an entrepreneur, I make a good amount of money. I don't want to get into specifics, but I make a career level salary type money, in California, that I'm able to pay all my bills and have money at the end of the month to invest, right? Make that assessment as you will. My life, I think, as an entrepreneur, I am able to be somebody that can ask and have the freedom to choose. And that's something that I really wanted to do. And so I chose to have it because it is so. And it sounds like this reverse counterintuitive thing, but the freedom to choose gives you a plethora of options, but it comes from the reflection and time that's needed to be who it is that you want to be. Life is supposed to be spent figuring out who it is that you want to be, where it is that you want to go, but life seems to have you so busy from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. And I don't think that's the way life's supposed to work. Even back in the day with our ancestors, right, when they would go out and they would hunt, a lot of the time would be spent figuring out where the livestock's going to be, where the fruit, where the things are going to be, and then they go out and do that, right? They go execute it, they go find the food, they go find the fruit, right? They feed their family, and then the rest of the time is spent thinking about what to do, spending time with their family, reflecting, things of that nature. And then they go out and they repeat the same process. I don't think the execution part of our life should be from 9 to 5. I think that's kind of unfair. I think a lot of time should be spent figuring out where it is that we want to go, who it is that we want to be. A lot of time reflecting, a lot of time doing inner work, visualizing and contemplating and, figuring out who it is that we want to be. So, assessing risk, you need time, you need space, you need reflection, you need discernment. You need to take time away from your day, away from your life, away from all the busy things to figure out the fear and the emotions that come with assessing risk, and then what to do when the risk comes about. Do you either prepare yourself for the moment, for whatever comes, or do you think about the insistence on the outcome because you're worried about things like, your money or an event or your, an event that you're setting up, or, your friend or your child, Assessing risk, my last episode I said self-discipline wears many hats. I think a lot of different emotions in our life wear many different hats. But to lack the time or the resources up here to think about these things, I think is the bigger glaring issue. I could begin to tell you, think about self-discipline, think about risk assessment, think about all these things. But then your life, society, the matrix, the way it's built, it doesn't give you that time. So I think it's very important that I express that to you guys, that, find time. Find time to reflect. Find time to watch my videos. Find time to have that inner work to figure out who it is that you want to be, where it is that you want to go. The contemplation of execution. Even spend time, I haven't talked about this for a couple of episodes, but finding your chief definite aim. What exactly you feel like you were put on this earth to do. And then after that, try to find your burning desire for it, an unwavering faith that the physical equivalent will be inevitable. These are all things that I'm so thankful to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that I am able to sit here and have conversations like these with you guys. I have 30 minutes in my day where I can sit down and talk to you guys and reflect. And then after this, I can go and read my book and lay out on the beach and reflect again and do a lot of inner work, And it's just a testament to show you there is money to be made when you're not working all the time. Money can be made for you. You can contemplate and do a lot of things so that when you choose to execute, right? When I create content probably a couple times a month. It's hard, long days. I'm working 8-9 hour days, right? Creating content, but I only work a couple days a month. Now, obviously there's times where I write up the questions, or, my team, we spend time editing, or, contemplating the next step in the business or other, companies that I do work for, right? Like there is work that I do, but it's not like I'm 9 to 5 working every single day. To be honest with you, I only work a couple hours a day and I make a pretty decent amount of money. And that's not to like gloat or say anything like that. I'm just trying to show you that I don't think life, my rendition, my imprint on reality, I don't believe it to be where I have to spend 9 to 5 in order to make enough money to be a happy person. And that's no knock to, my best friend. She loves her job. She enjoys the grind. She enjoys that aspect of it. She gets to turn off her brain while my brain is always on. There's benefits and there's negatives, positive and negatives to every situation. It's just, finding the time to reflect on who it is that you want to be. That will allow you to discern your emotions and ultimately create the opportunity to even assess risk. So that's my 2 cents. So what I want to do now is do a guided meditation. So if you can find somewhere on the ground, on your bed, say crisscross applesauce, whatever feels comfortable. And what I want you to do is we're going to take 3 deep breaths. So in and out. 2 more times. In, out. In and out. Keep your eyes closed. And what I want you to do is just allow your shoulders to relax, allow your jaw to unclench, and keep breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. The mantra that will help you stay in the present moment: I am here now. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I am here now. Nowhere else to be except right now. Right now is all we have. It's all we'll ever have. I am here now. Feels so good just giving time to intentional thought. Could you imagine if you give 5 to 10 to 15 minutes every day reflecting? It's just a little bit of time. I'm not asking you to give hours. I'm just asking you to find little pockets of time. Imagine in your life right now where you have little pockets of time. Do you have 15 seconds before you get in and out of the car every time? Do you have 15 seconds when you're watching a YouTube ad and there's 2 commercials and you just turn the volume all the way down and you just give some intentional thought, reflection? Do you have time right before you go home from work or right before you go home from the gym to go to a field and sit and just listen to yourself reflect on who it is that you want to be? Figure out pockets of time that you have. I know you have so many. You can make tons of excuses. Oh, I have this, I have that. But the highest version of yourself has no excuses. I am here now. You can open your eyes now. Man, 35 episodes. It's crazy. I appreciate you guys, and a lot of things take time. You got to be willing to go the distance. And the distance may be a 100-meter sprint. It may be a mile, it may be 5 miles. The analogy that I'm trying to make is, if you have what it is that you want, I want to create a show where I talk for 30 minutes a day, give you thought-provoking concepts and things to resonate with in your own life. I have a chief definite aim. I have a burning desire to share the thoughts that are going on in my mind, and unwavering faith that the physical equivalent, the success that will come with this channel, the community that's built, the love that's given, will be inevitable. I have no doubt in my mind. No doubt. Appreciate you guys, man. Life is good. Life is truly, truly good. Get outside, step in some nature, go on a walk, call your mom. All right. I'll see you guys on the next one.